If you're a chocolate lover, you've definitely noticed something happening at the grocery store. Your favorite treat is getting way more expensive. Well, the reason why is kind of wild, and it connects that chocolate bar directly to the fate of a massive rainforest thousands of miles away.
So yeah, you're standing in a checkout line, looking at the price and asking yourself, what is going on? And nope, it is not your imagination. Prices have absolutely been soaring. But the real story here goes way beyond just a bad harvest or some simple supply chain hiccup.
Okay, get ready for this. The price of cocoa, the main ingredient for all things chocolate, shot up by more than 400% in 2024. A jump that big tells you something major, something fundamental, is breaking in the global market.
To really get to the bottom of this price spike, we have to look way beyond the cocoa farms themselves. The story actually begins thousands of kilometers away, deep in the tropical rainforest of the Congo Basin. And what's happening there? Well, we're all feeling it in our wallets now.
So how on earth can a forest in one place affect the price of your chocolate bar? Well, the Congo Basin isn't just a bunch of trees. You got to think of it more like a gigantic, continent-sized rainmaking machine that literally generates the weather for a huge chunk of Africa.
And this brings us to this really fascinating scientific idea called a teleconnection. It's basically the concept that what happens in one spot, say a rainforest in Central Africa, can have a direct, powerful, and predictable impact on the weather hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away.
The forest is literally pumping moisture up into the atmosphere, creating its own weather system that doesn't just stay put. Those clouds it makes actually travel, becoming the main source of rain for regions far to the west.
The best way to picture it is as a factory for flying rivers. The whole process is incredible. First, the trees suck up enormous amounts of water from the ground. Then, they release it as water vapor from their leaves. That's a process called evapotranspiration. All that moisture rises, forms clouds, and then gets carried by the wind to deliver rain somewhere else entirely.
And the scale of this is just staggering. This isn't some tiny effect. We're talking about air passing over these forests, generating at least double, let that sink in, double the rainfall compared to air moving over land that's been cleared. The forest is the engine of the rain.
Now, the exact physics of how this pump works are still something scientists are debating. One theory is that as the water vapor turns into clouds, it creates a low-pressure zone that literally sucks in more moist air from the ocean. Another theory says that the heat released during that process creates a high-pressure zone instead. But either way, everyone agrees the forest is the engine driving this whole system.
So that's the science. But what happens when this incredible rain machine starts to sputter and break down? Well, that is exactly where we get back to our expensive chocolate. The disruption of this system is creating a massive crisis for the entire world's cocoa supply.
And this is where you can see the huge vulnerability. Over 70%, a huge majority of the world's cocoa comes from West and Central Africa. These are the exact regions that rely on the rain coming from the Congo Basin. The whole global supply chain is basically sitting right in the path of this climate disruption.
And here's the crucial detail. The cacao plant, where our chocolate comes from, is extremely sensitive. It's kind of picky. It needs humid, rainy conditions and has a very low tolerance for drought. Most of these are small farms that depend completely on natural rainfall, not fancy irrigation systems. So when that rain machine fails, the cocoa harvest fails with it.
And the economic pain from this is only going to get worse. Projections show that by 2030, the lack of rain caused by deforestation will be responsible for about 11% of the price of cocoa. But fast forward to 2050, and that number is expected to leap to a shocking 40%. We are all paying a deforestation tax on our chocolate, and it's going up.
To put that in terms of actual lost chocolate, consider this. Just one country, the Ivory Coast, the world's biggest producer, is projected to lose nearly 1.6 million tons of cocoa production by 2050. That's a catastrophic amount.
So this isn't just a regional farming crisis anymore. It's quickly spiraling into a massive global economic problem. Because when the cocoa supply takes a nosedive, the biggest importers, especially over in Europe, are the ones stuck with a multi-billion-dollar bill.
The numbers being projected are just mind-boggling. By 2050, European Union importers could be facing a cumulative extra cost of $256 billion. All of that just to secure their cocoa supply. And all of it driven by the loss of the Congo Basin rainforest.
Let's put that number in perspective. $256 billion. That is nearly twice the value of the entire global chocolate industry today. This is a cost that threatens to completely upend the economics of the whole sector. It's just insane.
And when you break it down by country, you can see who's going to get hit the hardest. By 2050, the Netherlands could be on the hook for over $13 billion extra. Belgium's looking at over $6 billion and Germany more than $4 billion. And that's just to maintain the same amount of chocolate they're importing now. These are staggering numbers.
Okay, I know, that was a lot of doom and gloom. But here's the twist in the story. There's actually some surprisingly good news. When you crunch the numbers, the solution isn't just about doing the right thing for the planet, it's actually the cheaper, smarter economic choice.
So we're at a crossroads with a very clear choice. We can do nothing and watch supply chains fall apart while footing a bill for hundreds of billions of dollars. Or we can invest a tiny fraction of that money to protect the very forest that makes the rain in the first place.
And the analysis on this is blunt, it's direct. It says it will simply be cheaper for big importers like the EU to fund forest conservation right now than to pay the massive price that comes from doing nothing later. It really is just a pragmatic business decision.
And the return on investment here is fantastic. I mean, look at these numbers. All of these conservation strategies pay for themselves many times over. But community-led restoration, it shows the highest returns, with a benefit-cost ratio of 3-to-1 all the way up to 6-to-1.
And this right here is the key takeaway number. For every single dollar invested in the most effective community-led forest conservation, importers could see a return of up to $6 in avoided costs by 2050. That is an absolutely incredible return on investment.
So this all brings us to the final, unavoidable question. This isn't just an environmental issue anymore. The hard data shows it is literally more profitable to protect this vital ecosystem than it is to suffer the economic fallout of its collapse. It's a choice between a smart investment and a massive, predictable loss. So really, what are we waiting for?